Arts Mid-North Coast acknowledge the Worimi, Biripi, Dunghutti and Gumbaynggirr people, the traditional custodians of the lands on which we live and work in, and pay our respects to their elders past and present. The Art Remedy Podcast, brought to you by Arts Mid-North Coast. Episode on the Art Remedy, I paid a visit to the newly built Macksville Hospital in my local town in the Nambucca Valley on Gumbaynggirr Country. Opened in May 2020, the hospital was built on a new site located just outside the town centre. To get the best clinical outcomes for the community, the Mid-North Coast Local Health District, in partnership with Health Infrastructure, facilitated project user groups, which included staff, patients, carers, and members of the community. One of the most outstanding features of the new hospital are the large sculptural works and reliefs that welcome patients, visitors, and staff into the reception area. In this bright, lofty space, you will find a colourful mother whale and her calf suspended from the ceiling, and 3 more pieces depicting the theme from the mountains to the sea. Throughout the hospital, there are dual wayfinding signage in both English and Gumbaynggirr. Heralded as a great success, the project was a finalist at the recent New South Wales Premier's Award. I found out a little more about these works and spoke with members of the project team, including Flanders from Saltwater Freshwater Arts, Ricky Buchanan, the community facilitator, Aunty Jarrett, an elder and one of the key artists, and Bridget Uran, Program Director of Arts at Health Infrastructure New South Wales.
My name is Michelle Flanders and I'm the Aboriginal Project Officer for the Women in the Saltwater Freshwater Arts Alliance. Saltwater Freshwater Arts Alliance is the regional body for Aboriginal arts and culture on the mid-north coast of New South Wales. And we're governed through an alliance of local Aboriginal land councils, 10 of them, being Karua, Foster, Purfleet, Taree, Bunya, Biripi, Kempsey, Dunghutti, Untitled, Bowraville and Coffs Harbour. And we cover 4 nations, the Worimi, the Biripi, Dunghutti and Gumbaynggirr Aboriginal nations on the mid-north coast of New South Wales. We got a contract through the Macksville Hospital to develop some artwork for the new hospital. That came through our branch with the NADA, the National Aboriginal Design Agency. So we engaged with the community in Nambucca, Macksville and Bowraville to get some young students from the schools there to do some artwork to go on display in the hospital. And then that evolved into a big weaving project as well. And so they've got the weaving installed in the hospital now and it's absolutely beautiful.
My name is Bridget Uran. I am the Program Director of Arts for Health Infrastructure New South Wales. Well, arts and health settings has been around for a very long time in New South Wales as well. Many hospitals with rather extraordinary collections of state significance. For example, Royal Prince Alfred Hospital, their collection started in 1933. The Royal North Shore and Maitland Hospital and Concord Repatriation Hospitals also have these extraordinary collections as example, and still today are used as backdrops for other arts activities. Concord Repatriation Hospital, for example, film and TV, including the movie Australia and popular TV series All Saints. So that's how I guess it was, set up for decades. And then in 2016, the New South Wales Health established New South Wales Health and Arts Framework, and local districts across New South Wales were given discretion to enable it and suitable to their community needs. And that's where we take launch, really. There was a substantial amount of consultation with extensive arts industry leaders, stakeholders, artists, therapists, etc. And we try to honour that, in our daily practice. So we do, in almost all health infrastructure projects at least, we have artists working on those that are relevant to having arts programs. The key reason why we do it is primarily because it is a cost-effective way of improving patient and visitor experience, and the ripple effects that has, of course, on staff wellbeing. So I guess what has changed in some ways is health infrastructure's commitment to art started before the New South Wales Health and the Arts Framework through public art commissions in redevelopment. So it's probably a good understanding from where it began. However, that has certainly evolved over the last 10 years, and probably 2 years in particular since I've been appointed, to include the reviews of the models of care and the role of therapeutic arts programs, for example, music or literature. And so there's a more holistic response. It's not just ensuring that art is included as a visual means to deinstitutionalise a clinical environment, but it's how you can engage creatives and multidisciplinary art forms in those models of care to impact how the patient will experience that health environment. And the benefits of that is global. The patient benefit certainly is demonstrating how it mitigates stress and anxiety, relieving boredom often associated with extended periods of wait between treatment times, and of course, as I mentioned before, the staff impact on wellbeing, retention and fewer sick days. So there's a really wonderful example is the Dubbo Maternity Hospital redevelopment in 2015. Jonathan Jones, a leading Aboriginal artist, was commissioned for that project, and he worked really closely with Aboriginal elders and community to create a response that would be deeply tied to ancient songline and kinship. And a result of that project was that Aboriginal women in the first 12 months after the new service opened increased their first time presentation before they were in active labour by 27%. So that has an extraordinary impact on women's healthcare, maternal healthcare, and generationally how the trust of the health system and Aboriginal communities can be improved through arts. And I guess that, is significant as a statistic to me because I've had 2 children at Dubbo Hospital and had a very different experience of, presenting very early for my maternal care. And so it's wonderful now that Aboriginal women through that project and Jonathan Jones and the elders' engagement was able to create a response that was not just about deinstitutionalising that clinical space, but also enhancing the model of care for women seeking maternal health care.
My name is Buchanan. I am a local Aboriginal man from Bowraville. I've been involved with Maxwell Hospital and the entire project of, working towards having a new hospital, and then the development of that hospital and facility and the inclusion of the names, the dual naming system within the hospital, and the artworks and weaving sculptures that are within the building. So the main artwork itself was created by 14 different students from the 3 different high schools in the valley, Nambucca, Macksville and Bowraville. And basically we gave a theme to the students that was from the mountains to the sea, and we translated that to Gumbaynggirr Country, and basically the students created an artwork and we sort of used them to create the big piece that there is now. And the piece that's on the wall, I think it's coloured perspex or acrylic or something like that. It's almost 3 metres tall and I think it's about 6 metres from one side to the other. So it's a fairly big piece. kind of three-dimensional because we've got the pretty thick plastic on there with the different colours. There are also a bunch of smaller artworks that are created by the elders and other people around the community. And then the main sculptures, so the weaving and those sorts of things, they're all through the main hospital street. And they basically follow the same theme, from the mountains to the sea. And so there's a piece that you'll only see when you look back towards the west. It's a depiction of mountains, and also relates to Scott's Head Mountain because of the fact that it has 3 peaks. And so that piece was given 3 different peaks. The piece you'll see as you walk in the door, just above reception, is Morbai. It is a fig tree, a white fig tree, and it is what we know as the tree of life. And it tells, and the story that relates to that talks about giving and sharing and I guess coming together as a community rather than trying to be, I guess, alone and I guess take more than you need and claim space where you should be sharing. So yeah, that's the first piece as you walk in. And then the second piece you'll notice is the water hole, so a fresh water hole, and that has the brolga on it, and that relates to our mother that we hold within our culture, and her name is Gumbaynggirr, and she basically is our protector, and she comes to us when we're in need. The major story that relates to her, when her son falls in battle, she travels to the battle site and basically, helps finish off the battle and tries to save him, but she's unable to. So, that mother figure that comes to your aid when you need the help and when you're not feeling well, so ties in as well. And then the final piece that's hanging from the roof is mother and calf, 2 whales, and they are kind of facing towards the northwest, and they relate to the migration of whales. And as we planned, they are located just at the front of maternity, so they also tell the story of mother and calf and a mother and her child beginning their journey throughout the ocean and here throughout the world,
My name is Jarrett. I'm Gumbaynggirr, Dunghutti and Bundjalung descendant. Currently reside on the mid-north coast, and I just stay home and work quietly doing weaving and painting and taking care of the grandchildren, and I get involved in some community projects. It was an amazing opportunity, and beautiful artwork was the result of many hours of work throughout the COVID. We started in the schools and the women's group down in Bowraville. We taught them how to do some simple techniques, and then didn't take long for them to become quite confident and enjoy what we taught them. And then we were able to take those pieces and connect them together to create the whales, billabong, the tree of life, and the mountains, which are represented locally in the creation stories. This amazing artwork, like the amount of hours taken to produce something so emotive on telling a story through weaving. The connection between woman, thread and country. A story being told that is healing and threading together life, past, present and future. As women sit and weave with students, they can contribute to bring their culture and their ways to others. The ways in which these women work are a mixture of traditional weaving and modern-day structures. A symbiosis of the two art forms is visionary.
Art's important to us, the local Aboriginal people, because it's a way of expressing things that are hard to put into words. And in a way, some of those stories, see that the artworks and the sculptures that are there, they tell a story without us having to specifically tell you what the story is. And there's kind of a way to make it easier to tell a story, because a lot of the time we prefer a visual reminder of the story. It makes it a lot easier to recall, as much of the story as possible, rather than trying to rely on just your memory alone. And yeah, a lot of the time, and in particular with all the weaving, the process of creating the piece can be, I guess, meditative or a healing process in itself, because with the weaving, you have time to sit down and do something that's kind of repetitive and takes your mind off everything else, and then you get to have conversations around what the piece is and how we're going to do it, and then you start conversations on where are you from and who's your family, and and then the whole sort of conversation becomes a bit of a healing process as well. So making the art and doing the weaving and things like that is actually a process of healing as well. For the broader community, it is able to provide a sense of comfort. As we all know, a lot of hospitals are pretty sterile, is I guess the word I'd prefer to use. Pretty plain. There's not many things to look at that are really colourful and take your eye, and for some people, take your mind off the fact that you're in pain or you're suffering from whatever it might be. So these sorts of things are there to create a different kind of environment. It kind of is a good distraction while you're in the building, and a lot of people do stop and have a little look, and it takes your mind off everything for a second while you're trying to figure out what's happening in the picture or what the weaving piece is, and have a look at all the details within each piece.
It already is affecting people. We get comments every day from people we don't even know. It just gets their mind off their worries for a few seconds, and they can appreciate the beauty and read the stories and just see how involved the community is, the children and the adults that were involved, including some teachers as well, and it just creates a beautiful ambience in the hospital when people walk in.
It is one of the most beautiful art projects I think I've ever worked on, and I think it's really exciting to look at it as not even an art project, and it was a whole of community response really, and led exclusively by the Gumbaynggirr people for Gumbaynggirr people. So I think that was achieved by engaging them very early in the co-design of what was feasible at the new hospital, but beyond that, the co-delivery of the project from early planning stages, and engaging the voices and mentoring of elders with young people in the 3 schools up there. Absolutely fantastic people supporting that project in community, in the schools, the enthusiasm of the kids. And really the outcome of that was far more beyond just the exquisite artworks that you see at the main entry of the hospital. but the greater trust between the communities in the region. The staff satisfaction that the artworks make the hospital a more pleasant place to work in, and it also led to the creation of 3 new Aboriginal health positions. Importantly, however, I think the Aboriginal patients are seeking preventative care, presenting to the hospital and community health services earlier than what they otherwise might have. And this has a massive impact on ensuring that what could relatively be minor health issues to prevent them becoming major health implications. The earlier they seek treatment, obviously, is better for health outcomes. And I think that's a wonderful outcome, that there are more Aboriginal families seeking earlier care than they did in the previous hospital. And a large response that we're getting is that the approach to that hospital redevelopment overall, the arts, the artworks and the weavings, the design by the children, very importantly, the language on arrival and welcoming you into the hospital.
It's just amazing to see the level of self-esteem and pride lift when people get involved in their culture, because for a long time, over 200 years, we've been not allowed to practice culture, and now we do, and everybody really engages and just glows. Art is a real benefit mental health-wise, and it just connects communities.
For a lot of people within the community and around the area, there is, I guess, a better connection and more of a sense of ownership and belonging within the place, because they see something that they're familiar with and they see something that someone they know has contributed to, and then it's kind of right there in your face, and it's not, hidden around the corner or somewhere that's not so visible. And yeah, it does kind of provide a fair level of comfort for a lot of people who do come in and see, the difference in what was and what is now the Maxwell Hospital, yeah.
You've been listening to The Art Remedy from Arts Mid-North Coast. Thank you to our guests, Aunty Lauren Jarrett, Ricky Buchanan, Michelle Flanders and Saltwater Freshwater Arts, and Bridget Uran from New South Wales Health Infrastructure. Original intro title track by Stuart Peters from Soundshed Music.